radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Let's do this. Today is Monday, January 18th, 2021. 18 days into the new year. Only 347 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planets. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? All right. We have got a couple of weeks coming up of absolutely amazing programming. And this week, tonight, very special guest, Roger R. Richards is here. Roger Richards. Yep. Roger is here tonight. Now, we are going to be discussing his life as an activist, rogue filmmaking, getting the message out, a lot of other things. We're going to be talking about everything tonight with Roger. Get ready, all right? That's tonight. Tomorrow night, Tony and Cherie Rathman are here. We are going to be talking about ghost hunting. They're one of the premier ghost hunting groups in the country, and that is going down tomorrow night. Then Wednesday night, big show. Adam Apollo joins us, and we are going to be talking about consciousness and the new year and where we are, where you are. We're going to be talking about all of that. And also on Wednesday night, we are announcing the Conscious Life Expo 2021 and everything that is going on with that. And it's ready. So I'm going to save all of that for Wednesday night, but that is very exciting. So that's Wednesday. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Okay. All right. Let's see. Lots to discuss tonight. Oh, man, I forgot. I was going to mention something really quick, but I need to do a quick text, so everybody just stay with me on this. I've got to do a quick text. And I don't want to say what this is about, but there you go. All right. Okay, I had to get that in. And if I showed everybody what it was about, it's very important. And there you go. Okay. All right. First things out of the gate, Billy Carson, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. an incredible network that Billy Carson has put together. I want you guys to go and register. If you go over to jimmychurchradio.com, the banners are right there, forbiddenknowledge.tv, forbiddenknowledge.com, and you can follow Billy, too, on Twitter at Forbidden Knowledge. All of that with a 4. There is that. And if you head over to jimmychurchradio.com, we have a bunch of new advertising and things that are there for our sponsors. I want you to go and check all of that out, too, as well, including Carolyn Ford. And, yep, I still have Rapture in here. And Rita said, I can keep Rapture in here for one more day. This is Rapture. Go to EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com and use the promo code Jimmy for that, and you will get 10% off of your order. Okay, and all of the sponsors for Fade to Black are over at jimmychurchradio.com. We've got it up in social media and other things, so go, and that's how we keep the lights on here and keep this show moving forward. You can follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio, at jchurchradio. And I'm joking about this. If there's anybody left on Twitter, Alec Baldwin left Twitter today. I saw that breaking news. He said, it's it. I'm out. I'm out for now, he said. I'm out for now. We'll see about that. But yeah, Twitter got a little funky this last month for everyone, and probably the last year. But the last month it got really, really funky. And the purge was evident. I was going to post it. I didn't do it. There was a list of the politicians who lost Twitter followers over the last week. And some of the, hundreds of thousands. It was like per account. Whoo, man. I guess I have a net loss right now of 3,000 or 4,000. And yeah, you just don't know. You don't know how many of those are real people, how many were bots, how many were duplicate accounts that didn't really matter. Don't know how many people were just upset with Twitter and just split. Don't know. I really don't. But whatever those numbers are, for me, 3,000, 10%. Oh, that was the average, by the way, across the board where the purge hit. If you were part of that group, it was about 10%. 10%? Yeah. You had 1.5 million followers. You lost 140,000. Yeah, pretty crazy. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Hashtag F2B, of course, is the sandbox. Hello to everybody in the chat rooms over at Spreaker and KGRA. Of course, YouTube. Oh, by the way, Facebook is now back live. Little issue with Facebook, but we got that fixed. And yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to mention. Facebook. So you may have seen over the weekend, I posted a little joke about Sweet Tarts ropes, right? And look, here's another mini package of Sweet Tarts ropes, right? And I just posted this. This helped cure my Rona, and I made a joke: eat 100 of these 3 times a day, right? eat 100 of these. Right, 100 of these, right, 3 times a day. Made a joke, man, and Facebook reached out and touched me. They said they called that misleading COVID information. Sweet Tart ropes as a cure for COVID. It was pretty funny, and everybody enjoyed it. Nobody, but. Yeah, they actually, and they didn't give me a community guideline strike. I don't know if it, what they call it, but they definitely pulled it down. And wow. And I thought about taking a screenshot, but the thing is, it wasn't like it was some kind of conspiracy theory. It was a joke about sweet tart ropes, and it was a joke. So, what's the controversy behind that? If I were to post the screenshot of Facebook banning my post, pulling down the post, it's not that controversial, but it just shows you how idiotic the censorship has gotten. You can't even crack a joke. What would, a guy like Don Rickles today, what would happen to him if his comedy was out there in social media? What would happen? Just think about that. That's where we've gotten today. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Sir Richard Branson's rocket company, Virgin Orbit, has succeeded in putting its first satellites in space. 10 payloads in total were lofted on the same rocket, but he does it a bit differently because the rocket was launched under the wing of one of his personal or whatever from his airline, a 747 jumbo jet. Sir Richard is hoping to tap into what that growing market is, right? For small, lower cost satellites. By using a jet plane as its launch platform, he can theoretically send up spacecraft from anywhere in the world. In reality, of course, his Virgin Orbit system has to be licensed in the locality where it is used, which at the moment is right here in Southern California. Who's next? Well, there are well-advanced plans in motion right now to bring that 747 and its rockets to England. All right. Now, this is breaking news over the weekend. Happened yesterday. Russian police detained top Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny yesterday when he flew back to Russia months after barely surviving a poisoning attack. Navalny was detained immediately at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport. I think I said that right. Less than an hour after he flew in from Germany, where he had been recovering from poisoning with a nerve agent that was allegedly ordered by President Vladimir Putin. Now, Russia's FSIN prison service said in a statement that it had detained Navalny for multiple violations of a 2014 suspended sentence for fraud, adding that he will be held in custody until a court ruling. And then right before showtime, another breaking announcement on the story, he is going to be held for 1 month, 30 days, and then released. All right, let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Dave Bautista. One of my favorites. Today, Dave Bautista is 52. Of course, Guardians of the Galaxy. Really funny in the movie My Spy, if you guys haven't checked that out. Kevin Costner today is 66. And, everybody knows who Kevin Costner is and all of that. And then you start to think, well, what's your favorite Kevin Costner movie? And, Field of Dreams? Are you going back that far? The Untouchables? And then, and you started, The Bodyguard? All of that is old stuff. What has Kevin Costner done lately? But anyway, today he's 66. Korn frontman Jonathan Davis today is 50. And I have to do this. Bobby Goldsboro. Remember Bobby Goldsboro? There was a Bobby Goldsboro show for a minute. Bobby Goldsboro today is 80. And he had that #1 hit that makes everybody cry, Honey. Happy birthday, Bobby Goldsboro. Our dead guy's birthday today is the one and only, moment of silence, please, David Ruffin. 1941 to 1991, died at the age of 50. David was one of the lead singers of the Temptations during the group's Classic 5 period. He was the lead voice on My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, I Know I'm Losing You, one of my favorite songs of all time, and I Wish It Would Rain. After completing a successful month-long tour of England, David died on June 1st, 1991 from a drug overdose, and the stories behind what actually happened, pretty crazy. Happy birthday, David Ruffin. On this day in history, OTD. 1912. The Robert Falcon Scott expedition reaches the South Pole. That's right. On this day in 1912. But only to find that Ronald Amundsen, the Norwegian explorer, had left them a note. You're too late. Beating them by just over a month. And there was a race. It was crazy. They kind of were racing there at the same time. Amundsen had sled dogs, and Scott went with horses. That was a bad move. And he had some sled dogs too as well. But they said that it was just a bad scene. And Robert Falcon Scott and the rest of his expedition team walked to the South Pole and lost that race by 30 days. Fader fact, the painting The Scream was stolen the same day as the opening of the 1994 Olympics in Lillehammer, Norway. The thieves left a note saying, "Thanks for the poor security." Yeah. Has anybody seen the TV series Lillehammer? And if you haven't, Little Steven, have you guys seen it? You need to check it out. It's a good series. I think it's 3 seasons. It's pretty good. 2 seasons, 3 seasons. It's worth it. It's really funny. It's really good. Tonight, right here, Roger Richards joins us. And we're going to be discussing his life as an activist, rogue filmmaking, all of that. We'll talk some UFOs, talk some disclosure. We're going to do all of that tonight. Tomorrow night, Tony and Cherie Rathman are here. We're going to be doing a full night of ghost hunting. And Wednesday night, Adam Apollo. Now, Adam is here to discuss consciousness as we move through the new year, but we're also announcing the Conscious Life Expo 2021 and what is going down. So get ready for all of that. That's Wednesday. Thursday is another Fader night with open lines all night long. All right, let's see. Hold on for a second. Oh. Yeah, kind of. That's a text to Rita. All right. Thursday night's Fader night, open lines all night long. Let me hit this River Moon coffee. Yeah. All right. As we turn the corner, talk about the elephant in the room, right? As we turn the corner and head past what may be the craziest point in U.S. history this week, it's now time to focus on the future. Although the world has been dominated by absolute over-the-top headlines over the last few weeks, scratch that, it's not true, over the last year, all of the topics that we cover here on Fade to Black have not gone away. They're still with us. UFOs, Egypt, lost history, science, the paranormal, the supernatural, time travel, all that, right? Music and food, guitars. They have not gone away. As things start to settle down and we can all begin to relax a little, all of us here at Fade to Black can also focus on the things that mattered for us all and get back to feeling somewhat, normal. Now, we tried to stay on point over the last few months, but like all of you, there were huge distractions going on all around us. Then, of course, my family got the Rona over Thanksgiving, and that almost totally derailed us, including the show. And looking back, I have no idea how we continued to broadcast. I was really, really sick. But we couldn't just take 6 weeks off. That was totally impossible. and it was never considered. Took a couple of days off, and that was it. We had to go. We had to go. It was go time. I had to work through it. And just like anyone else who got sick, you know, you got the Rona. If you weren't in the hospital, you just worked from home. You got to pay the bills. You got to take care of your family. You just can't quit. Doesn't work that way. Well, and with the show, look, everyone, I did the best that I could. I made sure that I had the energy to blast through 3 hours each night. Okay? Looking back, I don't remember any of it, really. In my mind, my memory, those were a very dark 6 weeks, like a big, long, crazy dream. I just don't remember it. And I'm not alone. I may have, gone through what my family and I, talked about publicly, but many have gone through this and continue to go through this. But we have turned the corner. Okay? With everything. Everyone has. Now, the media right now may be trying to continue with the fear and the drama stuff about whatever subject, but I think that we all know that the worst is over. All right? We actually spent an entire year in a parallel world. Think about it. Look at it in those terms. It's a subject that I speak about often. The possibility of another dimension, another space, another world. Just a world just like our own, but just a little bit different, A reality that exists. But we never get to visit or see it for ourselves, right? But we ponder this and we talk about the possibilities of this. Certainly science does. But this time, we did. We did. The entire world was yanked out of one reality and plopped down in another, virtually overnight. A place where nothing made sense. A flip-flop of what we knew. And nobody was exempt. Didn't have a choice. Just like my last 6 weeks of the Rona nightmare, as we move along through time, we'll all look back at the Mandela-affected 2020, the year that we visited the parallel world that exists on the other side of a thin layer of particles. It's funny because the next time you may hear a physicist or two debate about the multiverse, one of them can just say, hey, well, the proof of it is the year 2020. It's like mic drop. You'll be hearing me say this a lot in the years ahead. Seriously, I can use 2020 as evidence. I can use 2020 for the answer in just about anything. Right? Somebody wants to come at me with, man, time travel is impossible. Oh, yeah? What about 2020, pal? We've actually lived through our very own Wizard of Oz. But we made it back home, for real. There really isn't another way to look at it. But yeah, everything in front of us is back in focus. It is in full living color. On the alternative reality that we found ourselves in over the last 12 months. That distraction that was in back of everybody. You know, and look, you guys were listening to the show. You guys are listening to the show, and I've got a guest on. We're doing ghosts, we're doing paranormal, we're doing time travel, UFOs, disclosure, whatever. And I know what everybody's thinking. Amy's talking about UFOs tonight. At least we don't have to think about the pandemic. At least we don't have to think about the elections. At least we don't have to think about, right? That's over. It's over. If you think about it. We have all clicked our heels 3 times with our eyes closed. We're all back home where we belong. I feel good in saying that. I just look forward right now and I see stair steps. I just see each day better than the last. I see stair steps. I see the light. I see everything. I see normality. I just see it. Where we don't have to deny what's going on in the background. It's a distraction. It's a distraction for all of us. All right? And it's our commitment to all of you. We're back. We're back. That's it. We got to get back to normal. And I will do everything I can to prove that. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, as we begin this journey. Oh, by the way, Roger Richards is with us tonight. We've got a great week. Next week is another barn burner. Okay, we've got 2 straight weeks of stuff here where even for me, as great as these weeks are with Fade to Black, where I'm kicking back going, wow. Okay. Wow. So get ready. Tonight, Roger Richards is here. Tomorrow night, Tony and Cherie Rathman. Ghost hunting. Wednesday night, Adam Apollo, and we are going to announce this year's Conscious Life Expo. The who, what, why, and when. All of that is Wednesday night. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I'm going to take a quick break. You can follow me on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. All of that is easy. And I'll be right back after this short break with our guest, Roger Richards. Stay right there.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fadedom and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month.
All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What a great week we've got coming up tonight. Roger Richards is here. Tomorrow night, Tony and Cherie Rathman ghost hunting. Wednesday night, Adam Apollo. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Tonight, Roger Richards. He's an American filmmaker, poet, artist, activist, who's known stylistically for his true conspiracy documentary aesthetic. His films explore highly controversial subculture topics that can challenge a viewer's understanding of the very nature of reality. These topics include unacknowledged government programs, global political corruption, the JFK assassination, quantum computing, and other advanced classified technologies. His work has been seen and experienced by millions of people around the world, and he has achieved somewhat of an infamous, that's always a great word there, Roger, infamous and mysterious reputation for exploring these highly controversial subjects through his films, art, poetry, and activism. His website that you can go and check out right now is 1000pieces.com, his latest documentary, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Roger Richards. Roger, good evening, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jimmy. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great, and as good as to be expected. We'll get to that mess in a second with getting the Rona. But,
yeah, exactly.
But I'm going to start off this. I'm gonna make you squirm in your seat a little bit because I noticed this this morning, and I didn't bring it up to you. But for the audience, I want them to know, so they have absolute transparency in this. You and I haven't spoke in over 2 years.
Yeah, it's been about that.
And
mm-hmm.
I saw our last text, right? I saw our last text. And I read it, and I want to just say this. I'm not going to read the text, but I remember this. This was over 2 years ago, and when you sent me the text, this is what went through my mind. Either Roger is snowing me, or he is being snowed. Right? It was like that's the way I took it, and I didn't know. None of us did back then what the heck was going on. The smoke is certainly cleared, and we understand things, but that last text from you and everything else caused you and I to not speak for over 2 years, and that sucks, man. That sucks.
It definitely was nice to hear your voice and connect with you here recently, brother.
Yeah,
always good.
I didn't know if you'd take my call. I didn't know if you'd take my call. Yeah, but that was pretty good for you to answer the phone. Hey, brother. I was like, all right, okay. I think we're in the clear. I think we're good. But so that's kind of where I wanted to start off for the audience, so they understand that you and I, this is fresh territory tonight for us both. I welcome you back to the program. Okay, and I truly mean that.
Appreciate it.
Now, before I want to discuss you, but before we move forward, did you anticipate in your wildest dreams that you and I would have the thoughts or the position that we are today about life and about friendships? Did you see things blowing up like that?
No, not at all. But, just like any families, you go through trials and tribulations of learning to understand each other and, just kind of getting to the deeper root of what this experience is about. And that is family, and that is communion with people. It's showing, your authenticity, who you are, being real, and, working through that and trying the best you can to hold unconditional love for everybody, because without it, you're dead anyway.
Well, you never know unless you put your toes in the water. Right? That's it. That's life.
Agreed.
That's it.
Agreed.
You just never know unless you put. I've had a few experiences with some bad lead singers in a band, right? But you just don't know. You just don't know until you dip your toe in that water.
That is true.
Now, speaking of that, you've got a musical background, and I want to go backwards first for everybody with you. And your life's journey before this part of your life, did you have an interest in conspiracies, strangeness, high strange UFOs, ET contact? Was that part of your world growing up?
I think that was part of just who I was born into this experience with, just like a lot of people in this community, you just from an early age, you feel like something's off, something's strange. You feel connected to something beyond this experience. All of those things were inherently part of who I was, growing up. Music became a way to express those avenues of feelings of, not being able to connect with the normal world and feeling like, something was grossly off about all of this experience. But I also had experiences when I was younger that were unexplainable and were just kind of tucked away in my, life memories as just unexplainable. And so, yes, definitely, I've always had curiosities and have, looked into avenues of, research and, trying to understand my own experiences while also being fascinated with the, the experience of others.
The documentaries of the past, certainly, Von Daniken and Chariots of the Gods and other things that were presented in the 70s. Did you watch those and that type of guerrilla, if you will, filmmaking?
Yes, definitely. And those early filmmakers, I think, are the pioneers that allowed, for people in this kind of like, citizen journalist movement right now to, kind of move forward in the same honor. in the way that you're just kind of investigating stories, like you have enough inspiration and desire to, find out the truth and explore the story. And, that may be vastly different to multiple different people that, could choose the same project, because ultimately as a director and as a filmmaker, it falls into your lap to reinterpret it through your, lens and what you kind of perceive. And so I definitely, I love all of that, old school stuff, the pioneers that came before me, and, the ones that are, contemporary ones right now that are still, doing this stuff and really committing to exploring these topics and opening consciousness and presenting, pieces of art that stir dialogue. Art is something I've always been extremely connected to as a way to interpret my emotional impressions of this world, my intellectual impressions of this world. And it's a special thing to be able to create and collaborate with people, especially on bigger teams when you get involved with, bigger films, bigger projects. It's amazing kind of what collectively comes together through those interpretations of exploring these topics and really trying to get to the bottom of the truth and understanding it yourself.
Is it rolling the dice, part of it when you are, talking about dipping your toes in the water, right? You never know. Rolling the dice with the documentary and putting it out there, especially when it's about something that is sensitive, do you have to brace yourself a little bit, and pull back and wait to see what comes?
Yeah, and especially when you live in a social media culture where everybody, has their opinion and can have it loudly. I've definitely been drugged through the mud of like every conspiracy theory possible about who I am, who I'm working for, the purpose of these films, blah, 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 blah. But really, when it comes down to it, it's a lot less, infamous than everybody kind of makes it out to be. And it's really, I'm a creative person that aspires to understand beyond the boundaries of the norms that we're presented with. And film is my medium, and this is my interpretation of experiencing and interacting with that right now.
Now, there is, your tattoos came into question.
Oh, I bet.
That was hilarious, man. That I mean, really.
You know all about that coming from the metal background.
I've got tattoos that nobody's ever going to see. You just made the mistake. You just made that mistake. But yeah, and that's the world that we live in now. Nothing can just rest on its own. Everything else has got to get pulled in, and people just have to pick apart things and pick apart people. It was rough watching you go through all of that. Well, this is the thing. I brought up. Okay, all right. I'm going to make you laugh. But you and I were talking about some of your documentaries. We didn't mention anything by name, but I said, "Man, you just managed to just get into these subjects." That and your response was, "Dude, everything I do is untouchable." Right.
I think that's even the case now with 1,000 Pieces right now and the way that it's being censored, that's the nature of the projects that I like to do. And, I want to be involved in the ones that nobody wants to touch. Like, I want to be involved in the ones that just make people like absolutely loopy trying to figure out, those are the things that are interesting for me as a creative. Those are the places that fascinate me, sitting across the room, interviewing somebody. These are the stories that I feel like need to be told right now, and they're an incredible part of American folklore and subculture, global folklore and subculture, and it's fascinating from an anthropological standpoint, looking at just the disclosure community or the ufology community in general, truth community, however you kind of want to term it. But these stories there's a reason why millions of people flock to this information. Everybody that you have that itch deep down inside you of the unknown, and what could be out there. And, generally the imagination, takes over the abyss of, what that could be for every individual. But when you have these stories come out that really like challenge the very kind of nature of reality that we're given as far as, what we believe collectively together is to be this existence we experience, that's something primal in people. It's something very spiritual even, it's something that drives them outside of, the existing norms and gets them thinking and daydreaming on the possibilities of what can be. And when you do that, and when you do that collectively, or you create a piece of art, a shamanic object that becomes that, conversation, you are interjecting that type of, experience into the world, and, getting people to think outside of the box. People may have visceral reactions to that message,
and they certainly have.
Exactly.
They certainly have. And you and I, our conspiracy community, the ufology community, we know how to deal with conspiracies and conspiracy theory. Emotionally, we know how to deal with it. Collectively, as a country or world, that, when you get into the status quo, they don't know how to deal with the conspiracy theory. And I think there is evidence of it right now where you're not prepared how to deal with things emotionally, how close you get to the fire, how much you get involved in it emotionally, spiritually, with your family, with your friends. Is that part of the danger?
I think it's part of what we're collectively experiencing together now that really kind of coins this age, the age of the conspiracy theory, the age of the whistleblower. These are archetypes that show up in our collective dialogue right now that are really powerful to define this moment in time. Never have we ever been able to have access to each other like this through a digital net in the same way that we have a total inspiration and fire lit from the standpoint of indie journalism and people wanting to participate and engage into their own research and, citizen journalists. And so that combination of all of those factors creating this massive, cultural bonfire, globally, where you've got two spectrums. You've got the far spectrum of conspiracy theory, which goes into every rabbit hole possible of possibilities. And that kind of dilutes the truth in a lot of ways, in my opinion, about what is actually happening. And then you've got the other far spectrum of censorship and people that can't even look at, the possibilities that the system that they're being served up is not really the system that's being presented there. And so I think the opportunity that's provided in this age is for us to really take a step back and look at how far we got from each other and try to find a place in the center and understand who we are collectively right now and pour that into taking down this system while simultaneously rebuilding this system. And that means through art, that means through government, that means through schooling, everything that we can possibly transform together collectively to bring us closer to the truth and to each other is pretty much, in my opinion, the only way we're going to make it through this. If not, it's just a different path.
Well, you've got a situation where the conspiracy theorist out there had talked for years about the government agencies spying on their own people and listening to this and reading your mail and then all of a sudden, and that was left to us tinfoil hatters, right, to chat about. The government would never do that. And then Edward Snowden comes along and says, oh, yes, they can, and they are doing it right now. That just freaked everybody out. And for the conspiracy theorist, you really, you want to believe, but you don't want the truth. You don't want the truth because it messes with your head. And something like that comes along. Now we have these other conspiracy theories, of which there are thousands all over today, fresh ones that are being created. And you can always go back to, something like Edward Snowden. When there is like one grain of truth, then it all must be true. And that's another danger zone, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, without a doubt. And I think, one of the things that's important is to, look at what's tangible, look at the evidence that's tangible. It's interesting to daydream and hypothesize and ponder about the possibilities of every single rabbit hole that's created. But when it comes to keeping sane through this process and really being balanced, it's important to look at the tangibles. And so in relationship to that, 1,000 Pieces is talking about COINTELPRO, something that's been widely known for a long time that, targeted revolutionary leaders in the 60s. Talks about Operation Northwoods and the idea of false flags being suggested on the American people, MK Ultra, Operation Mockingbird. These are all things that A Thousand Pieces explores, but these are tangible pieces of evidence to the American public and the global public that intelligence agencies and these conspiracy theories, whether it's JFK, whether it's the assassination of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, whatever those conspiracy theories are in whole and have been part of our, collective folklore here, there is truth behind those things. And there's evidence and tangible evidence behind them. And those are the things that I think are really important when, engaging people outside of the possibilities of, their normal days. When you want to engage with people and talk about these things, it's important to start with tangibles, not the deepest, darkest spaces of the rabbit hole, unless, it's a good buddy and you got a couple beers and a joint.
Yeah, right. Well, and how do a film like A Thousand Pieces, or anybody else that wants to do a documentary like this, where it appears now that if you are not on the right side of big tech, you're not going to catch a break?
I think that it's an incredible opportunity for everybody to really see this right now. And it's also an opportunity to start dialogue around Internet Bill of Rights. What does free speech mean from an internet standpoint, especially in a modern age where violence is being incited and, there's all different types of rhetoric and propaganda. It's like, where do we either choose free speech, which means we accept everyone, and even the worst of us are valued from the standpoint of that's a problem we need to fix collectively,
right,
or you choose censorship. And it's a rough road, because when you start censoring one, who's the next and who's the next. And so I think that this dialogue right now, especially around the tech monopolies that are happening and the censorship that's going on, it's a beautiful thing for us to engage in right now, but it's also very timely from the standpoint, with hundreds of people that are popping up, new platforms and that are taking this on and that are inspiring other people to expand out. So whatever the giants are trying to squash, all it's doing is just kind of making it really messy and get all over the room, like it's everywhere for everybody to see.
Now, where do you stand, though? It's one thing to have freedom of speech and freedom of thought, and then freedom of making up a bunch of BS in a conspiracy theory for clicks.
I think that that's free speech. That's one of the things you have to account for in free speech. And so when I go into that philosophical conversation, I revert back to natural law and my kind of anarchist philosophy that I've always followed, which is, do no harm. You take responsibility for yourself and personal sovereignty and do no harm. Are you doing harm? Are you intentionally doing harm? That's when it crosses, people's sovereignty. And it's also on the responsibility of the people to vet the information that they're taking, to be emotionally balanced enough, mentally balanced enough to really kind of do the little bit of research it takes and, separate things from, what is tangible and what is, just possible. And when people kind of find that balance, I think a lot of the division kind of falls away because it all just becomes information. Everybody has their own specific viewpoint. I'm not going to have the same interpretation of you and I, Jimmy, sitting here having this conversation. You're looking through your eyes on that end. I'm looking through my eyes on this end. And so we all objectively see what we can and perceive as our truth, but ultimately we don't have eyes on everything. We do collectively together. And that's where it really, really comes to a place of, understanding that the division and the separations, they're not really real. They're based off of, opinions that are inherent to every individual, but in the same way, the opportunity for all of us to look at something collectively, objectively, with a little bit more humor, maybe with a little bit more lightness to research these things. Those are the possibilities I see in the future when all of this, stuff starts to be uncovered more. We're living in the age of disclosure right now. And so, this is new uncharted territory for everybody. And I think the family that's been pioneering these efforts for decades have done a phenomenal job to get us to this point. And I think that we can get through it and be incredible mirrors to the rest of the world of how to deal with, uncovering who we really are.
Are you suggesting, I hear you saying almost two things. that we should almost have a citizens tribunal to oversee censorship after it's been censored, right? Something of that context. But then also leaving it up to the individual to practice their own discernment. You can't really have both. I mean, so which way do we go moving forward?
I mean, for me, it may be a paradox when it's within itself, but I do believe you can have both from the standpoint of leaving it up to every individual. That's your own personal responsibility that you have to take on, for you as an individual, in your own life. But in the same way, people, I believe and live under the oath that I'm responsible also for, the collective in whole and being of service to that. And so I see great service in the abilities of having tribunals together, to investigate topics, to really look at these things and to really understand. I mean, from the anarchist perspective, I choose that philosophy because no one gets left out. Even in a democratic voting system, someone's left out. And you can look at, there's people that talk about a voting system, democratic systems are just systems of slavery, and that's neither here nor there based off of perspectives. But to me, the only place we can go together is like if we all go together. This idea of separations, race, all the things that are dividing us, gender, everything that divides us from that standpoint, all of that stuff can be collapsed into an understanding that we're all trying to better each other, but we all have personal sovereignty that we need to take responsibility for ourselves.
Well, I agree with you. And it's always been our position as a network for us to put out the information and allow the audience to use their own discernment. That's it. You guys can pick and choose where you want to go. They are the judge and jury. I am not. But the paradox of that is I also use my own discernment, right? I can pick and choose who I have on the show, right? And use my discernment there. And in a strange way, I feel like I am censoring, and but that is a different position than the way YouTube or Twitter or whatever is taking, where they're not even allowing it to go out there to begin with because it goes against their philosophy. And I think that is indeed wrong, unless it's causing harm, like you said.
Yeah, and I think that, that's one of those things that's being presented right now for us to all look at. But when it comes to social media platforms, there's a greater conversation to be had here, and it's about our information. It's about, basically what you eat, who your friend circles are, what your likes are, what you don't like, everything, all the information that you pump into these platforms here right now is being sold, and it's being sold to market you products. It's being sold, to the highest bidder. It's being hacked. It's being taken on that standpoint. And so where I see this going in the future, if I had to place my bets on it, is the complete collapse of these social media giants and it being something more like public utilities. And it's the same with the search engines too, that there's a point in the future here where we have to protect ourselves in the real world just as much as we do in the digital world, or vice versa, I should say. And that digital world, that our information that we turn over every single day, this stuff is being captured and put together in profiles of who we are, and that deeply puts us at a vulnerability as individuals to a state or to a corporation. And these are things that we really need to start understanding and looking at and resolve and come to terms with collectively and present solutions and move forward with them. Because if not, we're continuing down this road of division and battle when it's not needed right now, where there's other options.
Let's take our break right here, Roger. Got to do that. When we come back, can we talk some UFOs? Can we talk some UFOs? Roger just gave me the thumbs up.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
We'll be right back. Our guest tonight, Roger Richards. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein the Ancient Crystal Skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Roger Richards is with us. Listening to the commercial break there, Serena Wright Taylor talking about the Conscious Life Expo. We got a big announcement coming up Wednesday night with that, and you're going to want to tune in. Now, back to Roger. Oh, I was watching you bob your head. You didn't know I could play guitar like that, did you?
Right there?
Oh, hold on. I got a short in my system. What was that?
Is that you ripping on that guitar there?
Man, man, what do you think?
Yeah, that's amazing.
What do you think? No, that's not me. I'm a hack.
Yeah,
I'm a hack. I'm a hack, just like you when it comes to music. What kind of guitars do you have?
I've got a couple acoustics. I've gotten in my older age really enjoyed hitting up the acoustic guitars, and but I played a Les Paul when I was younger, Stratocaster when I was younger, Telecaster I love. I like the Gibson stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. Acoustic guitars and me, we don't get along.
Yeah, it's a different beast for sure.
We don't get along. I can only play C, G, F, and D so many times in so many combinations. Mm-hmm. And then I break off into Stairway to Heaven, and then it's all over.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm into like baritone guitars. Like I've got a Jag 6. So those I like the old school stuff, but also different odd tunings and old open chord blues tunings, things like that.
Yeah, right on. See, I'm always impressed. I wasn't that impressed with you in the beginning, though. So let's back up. Okay. Disclosure. Now, when I like to, which I think it's generally true, I've got my finger on the pulse of the community. I know everybody. Everybody knows me. I've interviewed everybody. I hang out, right? And then along comes this guy, Roger Richards. And I'm like, wait. Who is this guy? This enigma. Right, and you came on fairly quickly and fairly strong. I got to know you early enough where I thought, okay, this is a guy that finishes what he starts. He's very serious and he's very professional. But that is only the Roger Richards the representative that I know, right? Because I've only known you for a few years, right? I guess that. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out the math here.
4 years.
4 years. Yeah. Okay, so before that, what came first, Disclosure or Roger Richards? Because you know what I mean? Because you started using that word and working on that community way before this community knew who you were. Anybody in the community.
Most definitely. And that started with just my own interests again, with just trying to understand some experiences that I couldn't, really understand from my childhood. It started with the disappearance of my brother also in, 2016 here, that kind of perpetuated me diving even further into that experience. But yeah, I have been on the search for a while. And to be perfectly honest, I've been involved in all sorts of activism throughout the years, whether it's March Against Monsanto or anti-war efforts, things like that. That was a big part of who I am. And when I came to the kind of disclosure community and the information there, I was inspired from the fact that there was not a lot of direct action happening in this community. There's a lot of people that are putting out information and doing research and writing books and doing documentary films, but there wasn't really like an organized effort for people to express direct action from the standpoint of like, what are these unexplained technologies that have been witnessed by millions of people worldwide for thousands of years, and why is this obviously being kept from us, and what kind of efforts can we collectively put together from a direct action standpoint to kind of bring these things out into the public. And that's where it kind of led me to the idea of the collective consciousness and using the collective consciousness as a place for direct action through meditation and prayer, especially at times right now where it's very contentious to get together in public communities and groups to protest, and it's really intense to witness people's different opinions and different sides. But when you do that from the standpoint of meditation, silence, and, collecting together in, either locations or just synchronizing yourselves together at a certain time, every day, I saw that as the place for this community to access direct action. And so that kind of manifested into what I, started doing with Full Disclosure Now early on in this community.
Now, I want to talk about your brother, but you also mentioned some things that happened when you were younger. Was this an extraterrestrial ET type of experience?
It was definitely witnessing some type of advanced technology. And
what was it? How old were you? What happened?
It was probably about 5 or 6 years old there. Some of my first experiences were 5 or 6 years old. And I remember, waking up in the middle of the night, whole room flooded of light, these very kind of typical stories of, abductees. I remember going outside and interacting with some types of beings that definitely did not look humanoid. And, that kind of the journey with those beings and that experience kind of started from that early age. But they were, fractured pieces of memories. They were just enough to just question, what the hell was that?
What state? Where were you living?
I was living in Utah, actually, Provo, Utah, out in a very small town called Wellsburg, which is, maybe 350, 400 people there. And the Native Americans used to call it Round Valley. It was this small little town outside of Provo, Utah. But, starting to have those experiences and then just having these fractured pieces of memories and always just kind of that itch that could never be scratched, I chose to go and meet with a woman named Barbara Lamb. I know you know Barbara.
Of course, yes.
And the work that she's done with, contactees and abductees, for I think going on now 3 decades probably, the work that she's done in that area. And, I started to explore and look at these memories through hypnosis, and it was really an intense experience to kind of open up to the possibilities of, what is out there through hypnotic regression and through looking through the keyholes of these, fractured experiences that I had.
What's it like to have a session with Barbara Lamb, who is absolutely, hands down, one of the nicest, coolest, brightest rays of sunshine on this planet, right?
I think that absolutely coins it. Barbara has an incredible light about her in general. And she's also, for people that haven't experienced doing hypnotherapy, or if you've got experiences of your own you want to explore through hypnotherapy, it's really, really smart to vet the hypnotherapist that you work with from the standpoint of them not front-loading you with information prior to that. Barbara is a true, pro in that avenue, and really just kind of sticks to the basics of, textbook and, providing that experience there. And then you provide the rest in all of that. And she's, meticulously documented, like I said, 3 decades more of these experiences. I think she's probably one of the, larger people that have accumulated, this type of information the most in the community over the last 3 decades.
How easy was it to be regressed?
For me, I'm pretty adjusted to the idea of meditation and putting myself into those states,
Right.
So it was pretty easy for me to just kind of slip into that. But if you're not familiar with, putting yourself in really relaxed states and lucid states, it can be challenging to get past that point.
Were you singing like a bird?
I was not singing like a bird. I was definitely whispering a lot. I think one of the things that fascinated me about the listening to the recording afterwards is actually hearing tonal adjustments based off of age. I could actually hear a change in my vocabulary based off of where I was at in age, which was really shocking, and a part of me going, all right, maybe there is something to this. This is a trip, So.
And what did you learn that you didn't remember?
I learned that I've been interacting on some level with some experience that I don't understand, Jimmy, and that's about all that I can absolutely put into terms and from a standpoint of anything that's concrete, and that's what's been at the basis of driving me through this experience. It's been the engine that's perpetuated, that long-term goal of getting to the truth and understanding that. And I'm still nowhere near it, I don't think. I've definitely had a huge amount of, especially over the last 3-4 years working on these films, the ability to interview people like William Tompkins was an incredible person to connect with and hear his story. But the ability to be closer with these people, talk to them more, take these interviews, it's all been this great information flow that's helped me kind of come closer to understanding my own personal experiences, but nowhere near the end of it. I know that much.
What happened with your brother in 2015?
He disappeared. The last email that was sent to myself and my mother and our family had some information in it that was really shocking from the standpoint of something went wrong, something happened that involved something that he couldn't talk about. And my brother is a part of some of the early memories that I have too, interacting with these strange experiences. And I slowly putting together this story, and will eventually have the catharsis of manifesting it into some body of work, whether it's a book or a film in that experience. But that's a big part of it. He's been missing for 4 years now. His name's Joshua Ramsar. He goes by Stray. He was last seen in Seattle in October 2016, and we haven't heard from him since. And the information that we have now recently received is that he has passed, but his passing has a lot of mystery around how he passed, and I'm still trying to kind of put that all together. So all those things have just kind of driven me to kind of do this work and be involved in this work. And it's been what's kept me going through this to figure out the truth.
Do you think that there is something, I'm just going to use a basic word, supernatural to his disappearance? Something other than normal, I guess, is what I'm suggesting?
Yeah, I definitely know that there's something other than normal, but what defines normal,
Right.
Reality of things. But there is definitely things that are way out of place that are abnormal. And, that's been at the heart of trying to understand my family's story and, do a lot of healing to figure out what happened to all of us.
Was there an official a death certificate and a place of death?
And at this time, that's what we're still trying to kind of organize and put together and get closure on, and really still investigate. There's a lot of information that kind of came forward last year that's, put together those pieces. But, going deeper here, there's just like when you think, you've got conclusions and you finished it all up, it's like another door opens and it's like, oh man, where is this road going? But,
right. How old was he in 2015, 2016?
Well, in 2016, let's see, he would have been 22, if I can do the math correctly.
So,
22.
Knowing you and knowing me, he's about half our age.
Yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I got you. And this was in Seattle.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can see that you're emotionally, I can't imagine what you and your family are going through. But we all need answers, and we're going to continue to seek those answers. And this has always been your life journey, is to go and find answers. So I hope that you do, and you guys get the closure that you need. I can't imagine going through that as a parent, as a brother of my siblings. I just can't imagine going through that.
Thank you.
Now, continuing with disclosure, as you got into the disclosure community and the UFO community, was it what you expected?
No, not at all. Like, I think, like, you're never prepared for all the doors that open and all the rabbit holes that open. I think anybody that's like truly committed to disclosure and the conspiracy truth community is constantly on the verge of schizophrenia, like literally just like driving yourself insane in the process of trying to figure out what's going on. But, one thing I didn't expect was to be targeted so like intensely by people that have incredibly bold opinions about who they think I am or the work that I do or all of those things without even like knowing who I am. And that's one of the things that when you get into this community and you realize where the far spectrum of conspiracy theorists like are really harmful from that standpoint. And that's why tangible, evidence is, really important from, being able to base your foundation of beliefs on. I have and will always support the avid like daydream and exploring of every rabbit hole possible because that's what I do and I love doing that and I love having every perspective to look at, to ponder on and help me put the pieces together. But it's not something that I'm going to get tomorrow or the next day or maybe even in this lifetime. I think that's part of the whole perpetual journey, the idea of this ongoing myth that you're chasing, trying to understand the truth of all that is reality is just manifested here in this moment for me in this community as that experience.
Well, okay, so here we are, January of 2021. Hindsight is always a bitch. You can never have regrets. You live your life. You're an adult. You make your decisions. But looking back, is there anything that you regret? Was there a bad decision?
I mean, bad decisions are always catalysts. If I had to say, do I regret anything? That's a definite no. I don't carry regrets. I've been through enough in my life and enough hardships to know that, every experience brings you an opportunity and a catalyst to grow, to either grow or die further. And so I don't have any regrets there. I'm always, though, open for new opportunities to heal, new opportunities to make, new friends, new opportunities to come together in good conversation, good collaboration. All of these things. I don't hold grudges. I'm definitely try to live from a place of a humble, compassionate, unconditional love for all people, even my critics and the people that hate me. I'll watch their YouTube shows and I'll laugh. And I if you ask anybody, if there's anybody that rags on me more, it's me, because I enjoy that self-deprecation to the standpoint of being able to laugh at myself, and really that's what gets me through, is being able to laugh at these experiences. So from the regret standpoint, no, I don't regret anything. If I carried regrets, it would be like poison. But definitely bad decisions from the standpoint of, it might have been smarter to make that decision at that point in the road. But in the same way, I'm grateful to have all the opportunities that have been given to me that continually humble me. That's the best I can say.
Over the weekend, I watched. All right, I'm just going to be straight with everybody. I watched the new edited version of The Godfather Part 3. Okay.
Yes.
Now, Francis Ford Coppola rolled the dice, re-edited it. It is now called Coda: The Death of Michael Corleone. Okay. It's now no longer called Godfather Part 3. And I watched it and I enjoyed it. I appreciate him going back and trying to fix something that probably most people thought couldn't be fixed. It's now a watchable film. Will you pull a Coppola and go back and re-edit anything in your past?
I think I'll do some director's cuts for sure if I ever can. But I think that those films in itself and in their rarity, and I would say Coppola would probably say this too, they embody something from that time. You can always go back as an artist and, reinvigorate, reinterpret, things from the past there. But there's something about the original, Star Wars that's you can't get that from the new, digital upgraded versions of these things. There's something that embodies that time that's really important, that gets encapsulated and trapped inside those, projects. And so, definitely always open to reinterpretations of those creative pieces for sure. And maybe that's in the future. But they stand as what they were, an observation of that moment in time.
Well said. And then, seriously, well said. But then there's another part with what you do in guerrilla filmmaking and documentary filmmaking is that we are changing day to day now, right? Where the historical notes in your documentary are changing in real time. And it doesn't matter what the subject is, right? Do you have to constantly go back? When is the film done? You know what I mean? When do you pull the trigger and go, okay, this is final edit?
Time deadlines do that, Jimmy. Deadlines do that, because without deadlines, I'd be in a cacophony of just like creative madness, retooling. For creative, like people who are like juggernauts in that space of just obsessed with creativity and all of that, deadlines are the only thing that will bring completions to projects. Dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, because with like 1,000 pieces, this is like an up-to-date news program. This is something that you can watch today, but you can watch the film now and realize historically there are some things here that need to be adjusted, right? Because that's what you're up against in a 10-minute news cycle. It's no longer a 24-hour news cycle.
And that's what keeps the work moving, and the perpetual motion of always moving forward to, tell the story that's now, to capture that single moment that's now the best you can as a filmmaker, and present it, through your lens, through your own, interpretations of what you want to be as an artist. You do that, and then you move on. I look forward to that continual journey of, where the narrative evolves, where the expansion of consciousness happens to perceive another different angle or another, opportunity or change in the storyline.
Where are we? We've got a couple minutes before the break. Where are we now with disclosure? I mean, we're not where you want us to be, but where are we as a community?
I think that the community has done a phenomenal job, especially over the last kind of, decade here, but even the last half decade, of bringing that conversation out of the woo-woo circles and into more of the mainstream. There's a reason that these channels are being banned right now. It's because the collective consciousness is now desiring this type of stuff, It's why Hollywood is pouring, millions of dollars into, properties that are, interested in these types of, topics and whatnot. And so I think where we're at now is we're on the precipice of making some real breakthroughs, collectively, of really pushing this conversation. And it's so relevant right now to what we're going through in this crescendo of madness that the whole world is experiencing, that if we can take that opportunity and channel that madness into, really knowing who we are and pulling out all this darkness from the shadows, the stuff that has been hidden, the stuff that's been suppressed, the stuff that's like, you guys can't handle this, it needs to stay behind the scenes. The era of you can't handle it is done. We've all been put through absolute like torture in 2020 here, and and we still have not devoured ourselves. We've come very close in all of that, but ultimately love has won. Ultimately we haven't chose to turn on each other in the most like horrific and violent ways, and that's what's being presented, I think, in the disclosure community right now, is the ability to like keep pushing forward through that despite the different opinions, keep looking for the truth, and use that truth to restructure the world around us so it brings us closer together as instead of further apart.
Do you have another UFO ET disclosure film in you?
100%, without a doubt, working on it all the time, just like multiple other projects. I'm like
now,
I said,
you smiled when you said that. Do you have something in the works?
I do, yeah, most definitely I do. And this will be something that's humor is very healing, humor is very, very healing, and being able to look at the most horrific topics through a lens of, being able to laugh at the madness of it all. I think, I've always been somebody that's loved dark humor, dark comedy. It's the best healing, the darkest ways. If you can laugh at them, that's the most empowering you can feel. And to, bring joy into the darkest spaces is something that I'm fascinated with. So that's actively kind of one of the projects I'm developing right now.
About 6 or 7 years ago, I was on stage conference. I'm cracking jokes. And I thought I was tearing it up, man. Some good ET humor. I step off the stage and this guy comes up to me, man, that ain't funny, man. This is not a funny subject. You can't get up there and crack jokes like that. I'm like, man, he's lighten up. Lighten up. Let's take our break right here. Let's lighten up. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Roger Richards. Got a lot more to talk about. When we come back, how did he get into filmmaking? How do you make that transition in life? We'll find out next from Roger Richards. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Roger Richards. More with Rogers in just a bit. I want to talk to you right now about the one and only, the VPN that you need, a virtual shield. Because right now we're talking about the internet tonight. We're talking about big tech and what is really going on. There are suggestions that our credit scores might be based on our internet history in the near future. This is real. This is being discussed. The same way banks use data like income to judge credit eligibility now is how websites could use internet search history in the future. Researchers studying the relationship between finance and tech found that data from your browsing, your search, and purchase history could be used to decide your credit. Now, if you want to prevent this from happening to you, use the best VPN you can to keep your search history separate from your personal data. I highly recommend using Virtual Shield. It is built from the ground up for privacy. That's why there is a strict no logs policy. It's very simple. Go to virtualshield.com/fade to black. You can do it right now. Click and get Virtual Shield for 50% off today. Or you can click on the link in the video description box below. Virtual Shield VPN. Get it now. Our guest tonight, Roger Richards. Now, Roger, how do you, I made the transition. I went from music into broadcast, right? Now I've done film, I've done television, and I'm narrating a couple of film projects right now, and things are great. I know how I did it. How did you do it?
I started with music. I really got into editing background visual collages for our live performances. One of the bands I was in, it was very much into kind of multimedia type live performances. And so I got into video editing through the desire of wanting to create more of an experience for the people that were coming to our shows, and a way to kind of broaden the horizons of the music that we were playing in live settings by having, an accompanying visual aesthetic with it. And so video editing is where I kind of fell into that. And a lot of, if anybody looks up my early stuff, this stuff is comes from the deep depths of punk rock and metal subculture, and it's going to be full of every kind of dark, nasty imagery that you could possibly have. And that was an aesthetic. And for me, I connected with those communities, from the standpoint of was a representation of that angry, dark, in those experiences. And then, later in life, you especially when you're a father, things, change from that standpoint. But that's where it kind of came out of,
That's the most real. That's the most real thing that you could possibly say. The one thing that will change you is being a parent.
Yes,
Man, that'll snap you straight really quick. Are you suggesting, were you guys theatrics like the Plasmatics or like that?
Similar to that. It was very experimental, multiple percussion, lots of noise, lots of screaming vocals, the absolute torture to anybody that likes real music. That was the end.
You know what's really funny? Back in the 80s when it was all about Aquanet, spandex, big hair, lights, dance moves on stage, everything that was going on back then. And I saw the Plasmatics and Wendy O, and I happened to catch some late night, cable, whatever program. And I thought, man, we got to get chainsaws into the show. I don't know how we do that with the big hair Sunset Strip stuff, but that is really cool. There was something about that type of theatrics. We could never do it, but I really wanted to. I took it to my band. I was like, dude, we got to check out this Plasmatics video. They thought I had lost my mind. I was like, man, there's a way to do this, man. I think this is really, really cool. But it's difficult to do.
It is, yeah. But there's, there are great subculture bands that a big part of their, experience was the performance art. And that's what I was obsessed with. They're great underground bands like, Crash Worship is one of them that are notorious for their shows. They were out of San Diego, and, they would do things like, float, crowd surf, a big blow up pool filled with mud and two women, tied at the neck with pantyhose mud wrestling. These are the types of things that you create these experiences in live settings. And that's what I loved about the subculture music scenes is that, you'd be crammed into a small venue of 100, 200 people, but you'd be experiencing this unique, thing. And a lot of the times, huge bands came out of those. I used to play at Gilman Street in Berkeley there, which was an old school punk rock club, and bands like Green Day and, others were born out of that experience, in those clubs. CBGBs, the the whole idea of these like small subculture communities of artists that are just there to like create a scene. You know, it's funny because I always compare the ufology community in a way to that. It's like you've got all of these like, you know, subcultures, you've got these little venues that pop up, you've got a very DIY like attitude to it. So to me, it was an easy like transition into, you know, the experience of just expressing myself in another community that was open to subculture and, you know, different conversations.
No, you're exactly right. When you go to a small club like the I-Beam in San Francisco or Raji's in Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard, and it's just a small crowd. It's, you know, these aren't, but it was from the heart. It was real, and it wasn't it wasn't influenced by anything else. It was just their own thing, and I felt like I arrived. Right, I'm hanging out with my people. We understand each other, and it's the same thing in the UFO community. You go to a small conference with 100 or 200 people, but you belong, right? You belong, and you can have that communication there, and where you can't talk about this with your coworkers, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you go into, you know, these like seedy joints and, you know, that reek of, you know, sweaty people and booze, and there's mosh pits happening, and it's just like that. Those are amazing experiences to be had on such a personal level with these, you know, these counterculture communities. And it is the same. Like you walk in, you feel like you belong because you do belong. Those disclosure community from that standpoint. I mean, there's so many parallels of what it truly means to build any kind of grassroots subculture community, you know, and the ufology community and conspiracy community has had that forever. I think now we're on the precipice of a real pop culture breakthrough. You know, the Ramones were completely unknown playing in their garage in these small clubs, but now you buy their t-shirts in Walmart, and that's where this conversation is going. Subculture groups within disclosure community, you see that reflected in pop culture based on MK Ultra, or, you know, you see the pop culture breakthrough happening. And so right now there's a really great opportunity for people that want to, you know, help bring this stuff out into pop culture by getting involved in any creative ways possible, whether it's putting on events, whether it's doing your own films, whether it's making music about this stuff, whether it's writing books, all of those things. It's like that's what's bringing this out into pop culture, you know, from that standpoint. It's driven every pop culture, you know, it was built in the seedy rooms and, you know, dark, deep, murky depths of subcultures somewhere. You know, that's the natural evolution.
Well, that's exactly it. And I don't think anybody would have thought that Warner Brothers Records or Elektra or Atlantic, you know, these companies would fall away. The indie record movement, the punk movement, helped facilitate that, and certainly the internet came along and took it down nearly completely to where we are today. Is it possible with the subculture of the UFO community and the conspiracy community to take down a behemoth like YouTube?
Yes, I think that without a doubt, not just take them down, but be pioneers for the next wave of, you know, those pop culture phenomenons that everyone is obsessed with and is involved in. And I mean, I specifically feel that that group, out of any group, has the ability to take on, you know, these behemoths right now. And it's based off of, like, we've got the desire, that itch that everyone wants to scratch, whether it's a guilty pleasure or not. Everybody's wanting to look at those videos. Everybody's wanting to go down the rabbit hole. Everybody finds themselves, you know, covered in fig Newtons at 4 a.m. with an alarm set 3 hours later, looking at, you know, celebrity clone videos like, wait a minute, what's going on? You know, like that whole experience people are obsessed with because it's interesting, you know, from the standpoint of the possibilities that could be out there. And those things, those interests, those are never going to die. They're only going to kind of flourish more. And so I do think that this community specifically has what it takes to, create an experience that's out of the experience that's being given to us. They want to ban us, great. We'll create a new place for us.
Is it going to take some government intervention and the breakup of, say, Google and YouTube and Facebook, if it's indeed possible? They may be too big to break up at this point, but is that something that has to come into play so there is some competition to YouTube, so there is competition to Facebook, so there is competition to Google, of which right now there is not? That is 90% of the entire world that is on the internet uses one of those three platforms, sometimes at the same time.
I think it's going to be a combination of both. Obviously, government regulations and repealing things like 230 and others that have protected these, people from lawsuits and, giving them the protection of being, in the middle or, however they essentially want to put it. But at this point, that's gone too far past that. And now they're taking opinions and they're acting as publishers. And so the other flip side of that is it comes from the community with lawsuits. There are people that have real, free speech perspective, I'm dropped the term right now. When everybody gets together for a lawsuit, it's called class action lawsuits. The class action lawsuits from all of the people that have been affected by the censorship will ultimately be what I believe delivers the death blow. The governments may just be there to, offer up the next best solution from the standpoint of, bringing these types of platforms as public utilities. But then the flip side of that is they've got to deal with the American public and the broader global public not trusting, the government. So how do they do that? Do they put it in the hands of the military, from that standpoint? I mean, how are we guaranteed protection from that information? But coming back to it, I do believe that the people have the strongest blow to offer through class action lawsuits.
Well, and then there is a genuine flip side to that, which is anybody that has a private company should be entitled to do with that whatever they want, and that's the foundation of America and the capitalistic economy. So no, right? That's wrong. You can't tell me. For instance, you're a guest on my show tonight, right? What if I didn't want you on the show, and then you sue me because you want the freedom of speech of coming on Fade to Black, and you force yourself upon me? That's where do we draw the line here?
I think that it's in the nuances of understanding terms of services that you signed up for and where in your specific case those terms of services were violated. Because yes, it's one thing to create something and own it, and it's my space. You don't want to do your thing, you don't want to do my thing here, then you got to get out. But in the same way, selling people an agreement from a terms of service and then not offering them that experience or then adjusting those things post censorship, these are the nuances that can be picked up and refined through these class action lawsuits that will show that these companies are guilty of necessarily doing that, of offering experiences that were then later, changed, through their terms of service adjustments. But in the meantime, before those adjustments happened, there were things that were happening beforehand. So it really comes down to the micro specifics. It really comes down to the people researching and looking at their own case. What were they offered through that terms of service at the original time of these videos being posted or being censored? And when you get out into those nuances, that's where a class action lawsuit could be ferreted out that could actually have some, serious teeth to it.
Then the other argument, always playing devil's advocate here, where the owners of these platforms are going to say, hey, it's free. You volunteered for it. We owe you nothing. Right? And that's a pretty strong argument in court.
Well, it's also a strong argument that it wasn't free. What did it cost us? It cost us our information, and how much did that provide you in that process there? And so I think it's a learning experience for the American public and global public abroad about turning over your information to these, because this is how they survive. They survive off of those analytics. They survive off of calculating the odds against you as to what you're going to buy. And so when you understand that and you get that, that again comes back into personal accountability. Do you want to participate in those platforms, or do you want to participate in maybe some of these alternative ones that are popping up now going, hey, we're not going to sell your information? You know, that it really comes down to being educated, but also holding accountability of the service that's being offered.
Do we assume today, and I mean everybody, that Google is listening, that Facebook is listening, to your private conversations? Are we assuming that? Let me give you an example. I assume it, by the way. I just assume it. Last night, I had a private conversation on the phone with a TV producer, okay, here in Hollywood. And in that conversation, I discussed something that I haven't clicked on, which is digital SLR cameras. Okay? And I explained to this producer, yeah, I've got two. We can synchronize. We can do this. We can do the HDMI. You can switch from your studio. And I had this conversation. Today, my Facebook feed is full of Nikon DSLR ads, right?
That's real, dude. That's the beast.
Right? And I'm just like, and I mentioned it to Rita today, and she goes, come on, you're acting surprised. I said, I'm not no, I'm just saying, this is the evidence, right? I mean, I haven't clicked. I knew it was specific, too. I've got two Nikon matching DSLRs. We can do this, and these are the, these are what they can do. This is what they can't do, but we can make this work. And I've got Nikon DSLR ads flooding my Facebook page. Now, come on.
And what's even worse is when you don't actually talk on the phone, but the phone is just in the proximity of the room, and then an ad comes up and you're like, I never actually said that on the phone. And so these are the examples. People can say, can put their head in the sand all they want and be like, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you're not doing anything wrong. You shouldn't have anything to be afraid of. But in the same way, you could look at people like Bill Binney, who have come forward and have talked about, Edward Snowden, have talked about the data collection that's happening through the NSA with this stuff, through programs like Stellar Wind, KeyScore. These programs that are public that you can research will show you that this information is all being funneled. What you like, who your friend circles are, the food that you ate there, what you buy on your credit card, your habits, your website searches, how long you like things. Do you react? Do you love them? Do you just like them? Do you not like them? All of this information compiles a very, very specific personality profile on you to a marketing agency. But it can also be used in other manners. And when it starts serving you back this experience, and especially in the modern world of AI, and where we're going into basically, the branding marketing world turned over to AI, if there was ever a chance for an Antichrist to be born, that would be it, in my opinion, in that combination of things. But those are the things that you have to be aware of right now with those terms of service. When you sign over, it's free. It's not so free. And really, the protection of your digital self in the digital world, in this world of AI, in this world of data harvesting, that really needs to be brought to the table from a discussion around an Internet Bill of Rights. Where are you protected as an individual? What are you consenting to by clicking that terms of service agreement? Those are all conversations that are valuable, I think, moving forward.
How do we overcome that when we know that Facebook, Google, YouTube, and possibly Twitter is in this conversation, are powerful than any country? They don't care about courts. They can outlast a court case. They don't care about countries. They can outlast heads of state. And I think we've been shown that. So how do we get past this?
Old school, dude, direct action. They're not going to survive when there's a mass exodus. You know, those people live and feed off of you. They live and breathe feeding off of you and your information and your interaction every day. And all it's doing right now with the exposure of this stuff and, the censorship that's going on, all it's doing is breathing life into creative people that want to find solutions to not be censored and to be able to talk about the things that they want to do. There will always be movements that come out of oppression, and it's your choice whether to be a part of those conversations or to omit yourself from those conversations. But right now, that's one of the major ones to be having, and to really look at the platforms that are popping up in their stay in these mass exoduses that are happening, and using the opportunity to educate yourself and making sure that if you want to get involved from a direct action standpoint and change the world and have an opinion about injustices that are happening with any topic, you got to get involved and you got to be in there. And right now, the conversation, the information is the war. It's not about blockading yourself at Twitter's door. It's about organizing everybody to bounce Twitter and create a new experience somewhere else outside of those just draconian old school I built this, it's mine, I own you type of thought processes. It's a mirror for where we're all going collectively. This whole paradigm is shifting in ways that we've never seen before, and that's a big part of what's going on, in my opinion.
Two quick questions before the break. The life of an activist is a tough one. That's about as hard of a life as you can have. You have to have conviction. But should Julian Assange be pardoned?
Should Julian Assange be pardoned is a conversation, I think, that goes down to the very specifics of what he revealed and the legalities around those things at the time.
He's the true definition of an activist.
He is, from the standpoint of, what he's tried to pride himself on is that he's never published false information, that they have, and they've never revealed their sources. Those are the two kind of foundations of where he exists in. And honestly, a person that's offering what he's offering couldn't do that without those ethoses being embedded there, not revealing your sources and, verifying the information that's there. So I think that what he is an incredible archetype to the broader consciousness of how do we deal with these things that are going on behind doors? What kind of transparency do we actually need to have? It's one thing to call national security, on, something that is detrimental to, the nuclear codes or, to the extent of that, but another to call national security on a lot of this, ridiculous stuff that allows these intelligence agencies to be corrupt, that allows government organizations to be corrupt. All of that needs to be blown, and there needs to be more transparency. So he's the archetype.
Should he be pardoned?
Should he be pardoned? I think that's... It's hard for me to give a perspective around should he be pardoned, because the government systems that exist now are not ones that I really believe in. So I will say that he should not be imprisoned for what he's doing and what has done. Pardoned is a different, perspective on that. But I would say he's a hero over a villain in the greater human story that we're all experiencing.
Spoken like a politician running for office. Should Edward Snowden be pardoned?
It's the same thing.
It is, isn't it?
It is the same thing.
Well, he broke the law.
He did.
But he's also a true whistleblower, and what he revealed to the public was probably one of the biggest reveals in the history of everything, of all that there is.
Yeah, X-Key score and what came out with that was the tip of the iceberg in really understanding this data collection stuff. And people like Snowden, Julian Assange, these people are the ones, Bill Binney, these are the ones that are going out there, Chelsea Manning, that are putting their lives on the line for the standpoint of sharing this truth, publicly as a responsibility that they feel to humanity, not to a country necessarily, necessarily, not to, you know, a specific race or gender or political group even. It's the weight of what it means to be human when you witness, oh my God, there's something that is detrimental to all of us happening here. This is wrong. This is absolutely inherently wrong. And so when you have people bubble up out of the, you know, the experiences that take the bravery and run with it and do things like this and blow the whistle, I think they need to be lifted up. You know, I think they need to be praised for their bravery and their sacrifices. And, you know, being a political prisoner is like no joke. You know, it's a commitment to lifelong, you know, persecution.
Yeah, you know, I've often said that if I was in possession of the UFO video, right, and I had it and it was leaked to me, I go public with it. But Snowden, if I was, man, I don't know if I'd go there. Ooh, man, I mean, that's brass cojones that I don't even understand.
And maybe it's more than that. And that's one of the things that when you really get into the intricacies of how these intelligence operations work and these intelligence, you know, communities work against the publics, and you know, you really start to look deeper and understand, well, who's really pulling the string of who, you know, whose agenda is being run here, you know, in all of this. And that's a big part of the citizen journalist movement and what's happening right now, where people start digging, they start collecting the evidence, and they put it together collectively. And it's not about sharing memes of unsubstantiated information that is the wildest rabbit hole conspiracy. It's about really kind of like getting in there and digging out that stuff and sharing that information. You can daydream and, you know, ponder all the rabbit hole stuff and share it from that perspective, in my opinion. But when you don't do kind of the due diligence of, you know, getting in there and for yourself understanding the tangibles versus what's possible and pondering, that's where things start falling apart. And those people have brought forth tangible information that really, really show, you know, horrific injustices against the global population by governments, you know, across the world, and how they've connected with each other.
Stay right there, Richard. Perfect spot to take a break. We will continue this conversation when we come back. Our guest tonight, Roger Richards, activist, filmmaker at large. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs. including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I had to fumble. Welcome back. I had to fumble for the headphones. Rita just walked in the studio and said, great show. Best show ever. And then she said, I'm rewarding you, Jimmy, with Italian food tonight. So, Roger, I got that going for me. So thank you for that. You know, this is the thing when we're talking about independence, taking down the big man and what can be built from that. Virgin, Richard Branson, was built on the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Exactly.
That is a fact. And it blows my mind. There would be nut without the Sex Pistols. So it can be done. I want to, just going to let everybody know I warned Richard during the break that we're going straight into overtime tonight. He doesn't have a choice. We have too many things on the table. And one of the things is this, picking up where we left off, Richard, memes are now facts. That's a dangerous place for society to be in today. Should we have a meme police? And I'm not saying this in jest. Should memes be fact-checked, held back before they are posted and fact-checked?
I think the fact-checking thing that's happening right now is a bigger conversation that's just starting to unfold in here. And, you know, memes, I think it was Elon Musk that was, said, the person that owns the memes owns the world, or the person that has the best memes runs the world.
Yes.
I mean, the ability of being able to create essentially an infographic, that's what you're creating with a meme, and broadcast, a multifaceted joke, usually, humor that cannot be interpreted necessarily by an AI. The AIs aren't human from the standpoint of understanding humor. And so the importance of sharing information through memes, I think, is really, really important for direct action people to understand and get how powerful they are. But in the same way, you see people sharing memes all the time with just completely bad, fabricated information. And I think that that's a part of the maturation process that we're going through collectively in understanding how to interact, in these digital worlds. Again, this is the, social media in itself, and the phenomena of it is, just decade old or a little bit more from that standpoint. And so we're in the fledgling experience of really kind of working out all of this stuff now. So it's a good question to kind of pose and talk about how do you verify information? Is it on you as a person to share that, and then does that reflect within the platforms? Are you downvoted for sharing stuff that you didn't vet?
Well, and what's the difference? What's the line in between humor and facts? Because I said this in my opening statement today, but I really mean, where would Don Rickles be in social media today?
Exactly.
He would be banned from Twitter. Right?
Ostracized like the rest of us. Exactly.
I literally look at your camera. I posted a post about Sweet Tarts ropes.
Uh-huh.
curing my Rona. That was the post, and Facebook pulled it down. The fact checkers pulled it down and said this goes against our community standards for COVID cures.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And misinformation. I'm like, it's sweet tarts ropes.
And that's the dark humor that I love, because that's our predicament here. Like, look, we all have to take accountability for how we contribute to the whole. And that's, you know, that's part of, like I said, this maturation process of getting used to interacting with, each other on this mass level of communication. And I think that it boils down to that place. Do you censor, or do you have to put up with those things? And do we have to evolve individually to, that place? Because there's always going to be the protagonist out there that just wants to mess with people's heads and will put it out there. And it's a joke, man. Well, yeah, but it was, led people down this way. Yeah, it was a joke, but you're the person that takes the accountability for that joke and making that joke there. So it's a hard one that we've all got to figure out. But my belief system is always around personal sovereignty and accountability there, and do no harm. And as long as you're trying to overtly not do harm, you're in a spiritual sovereignty place that's in alignment with being of service to the collective. And I know that's a bunch of wordy just ways of like, you're responsible for the stuff you post, but in the same way, it's like, where do we go? We go to, you can't sweet tart ropes? No way. That is fact check. That does not cure Rona.
I couldn't believe, and I thought about this, and this goes along with this entire conversation that we're having now, that I post a joke like this. It's obvious humor. But then, does somebody actually eat 100 sweet tarts ropes 3 times a day to cure their Rona, and then dies of a sugar overdose? Right?
And is that their responsibility for not doing the research it takes to look up sweet tarts and realize it's not a legitimate Rona?
So who's responsible here? Me, exactly, or the person that didn't practice discernment?
I think we're all responsible, and that's where this paradigm is shifting. And I know that's a paradox again for the bigger, kind of conversation, but I live and exist in paradoxes right now in a world that's flying apart at the seams. Like, the paradox is the safe space. That's where I'm at. So I think it's on all of us. I think individuals, this is going to be a refinement process for who we are as individuals, and, choosing how we interact online. But also it's for the tech people that are developing these platforms to try to also create solutions there too. But ultimately, my opinion is, free speech above all.
Now, with I think the media, along with social media, bears a lot of responsibility for the divided world that we live in today. And a movie like The Social Dilemma, which clearly painted the picture for everybody. This is where we live. This is the world that you live in right now, and it is created just for you. Nobody else has your news feed. It is created for you. Out of the billions of users around the world, there are literally billions of individual news feeds. Most people don't understand this. The Social Dilemma, if you look up, this is what's strange, if you look up a documentary about social media, okay, Google actually puts this up number 1 in the search engine, which is strange. You would think that Google would want this buried. This is one of the most truthful things that have been put out there. Is The Social Dilemma required viewing for anybody on social media today?
I think it's definitely helpful to understand those, perspectives that are brought forth in that piece, but it's also, not the end all of, kind of like the user manual for social media. It's It's one of, it's like the move that Instagram made with making all comments, not public. And, that's a bold move that they kind of did from that standpoint of, we're going to kind of create a culture for social media that is, based off of, the contemporary information that we have around how it's affecting us here. And, things like cyber stalking and whatnot that happen, things like, predatory, pedophiles looking for kids online, all of that type of stuff. Like, the inventions and the platforms will mold and evolve based off of how we interact with them and how we hold ourselves accountable for how we participate within those experiences there. And, as much as we like to say, well, they built these places, they're free, we're showing up there. They built those places based off of what you're doing. They are calculating every single day how you participate on that and upgrading that experience based off of you there. And when you know that and you live that and experience that more, it just brings more accountability to, I think, the individual of understanding how they're contributing to the whole there. And that's the best, in my opinion, that we can kind of get to, is really making people aware, self-aware of how they're affecting others around them. We live such compartmentalized lives, and social media is another way. Here's my profile, here's my friend circle, I blocked you, I don't block you, da 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 da. But ultimately, we're all contributing to the same experience here. And this paradigm shift that we're leading into is about dissolving separation, in my opinion, and really understanding what we can do collectively. Like, what can we do when we all put our focus on supporting inalienable human rights for us, like, food, housing, healthcare, these things that technology can manage without a doubt now. What would our world look like if we trained all of our intentions on creating an experience like that, as opposed to letting corporations create experiences that we participate into and go through that whole ringamaroo in all of this. So I think that it's a bigger part of where we're going collectively. We're maturing through this whole process, but ultimately where we're trying to get to is a place of collective living, shared resources. You look at advances in like things like Uber and Airbnb 15 years ago. If you told somebody to take a ride from a stranger off the street or let a stranger sleep in your house, like, you'd be nuts. And now these industries have decimated corporations that have held the housing side of things in hotels, or the monopolies in the taxi, the travel and all of that. These are the types of ideas and things that are brought forth by people creating solutions for the changing, evolving consciousness and how people want to collectively participate with each other. I think we just keep pushing that conversation. We keep opening that up. How can we serve each other more? How can we be better to each other? How can we protect our individual rights and sovereignty as a whole collective? If we're all pushing in that direction, then there's nothing that can really survive against that will prey off of us, because we all have the perspective of serving the whole together collectively and understanding the responsibility that we each take in serving that.
Well, and how do we talk about a paradox where knowledge and information for the individual it should be a right? We should have access to information and knowledge if we want it, without it being censored. And then we have the question of disclosure and what the government knows about ET and UFOs. And right now they are trying to act like they are our friend, right? And now that's a genuine paradox in of itself, isn't it?
I definitely think so. And I think that paradox, is a fractal of a bigger experience. Right now, we're talking full disclosure in the United States right here, from the idea of these extraterrestrial technologies, because we can have that conversation. We've had access to information. But if you go to third world countries, people and communities, village communities especially, that don't have access to education, that don't have access to information, the ability to inform themselves, that's where things like forced marriages are continuing to happen. That's where, the miseducation of the broader global public, they have no idea. Full disclosure, and disclosure could mean so many different things, from the compartmentalization of information and the gift of opening up the world to have access to global information. Projects like Starlink, the idea of bringing, global internet to village communities, third world communities. What is going to happen when, the poorest of the poor get access to the information that's going to free them? You're going to see energy and uprising in people that abandon school systems and get right into self-teaching themselves, how to become engineers, how to become, scientists. This is when you have access to the information, you're free and outside of the curriculums of the institutions that are serving it up at a price. And I think that those advents and those, things that are to come here, especially over the next decade, when the whole world has access to information, that's when we're all going to realize, whoa, we can come together and really create something completely supportive for all of us. And we can have our own opinions. We can have our own cultures. We can have, our own individuality. But man, it's not going to take a lot to really kind of rebuild this system from the standpoint of, inalienable human rights to support everyone to explore whatever their desires are, whatever inspires them. If you weren't working at McDonald's, if you weren't working at a cubicle, what would you be doing, if you had access to that information or the support to just explore those desires? That's where human potential will be unlocked, and that's where a new paradigm shift is going to come.
Well, I often ask myself that exact question. We know that there are 4.5 billion people out of 7.5 billion people right now on the internet in the world. That's pretty amazing. There's another 3 billion people that have no idea what you and I are talking about right now, right? Exactly. A disclosure, information, censorship, YouTube. They don't have any idea, and that's not right. But if I went to, a family, and as harsh as this may sound, if I go to a family that is digging in a garbage dump in India or Brazil so they can survive a day, and I talk to them about E.T. and bases on Mars and disclosure, that they have no idea what I'm talking about, nor would they care.
Yes, exactly. And that those other 3 billion people, the majority of those people are the most impoverished of the most impoverished. And those cultures, that are disconnected from kind of the modern technological advances of, our first world countries or, whatever kind of this utopian vision of what we feel like we live in America, those people actually have incredible insights to the simplest forms of living that have kept them together, that have kept them happy. I've been to third world countries where, children are playing in complete filth, but just enjoying life still, and the idea of, these 3 billion other people having access to information. You could even look at, an issue like, modern day slavery. You've got people working in sweatshops globally that are being pulled from all different types of community to make goods for us here that we go and buy, and we have no connection to that. Those people, if they had access to information, they may not be in a sweatshop working for 4 cents an hour. They may actually be trying to do something else and understanding that. But what those communities don't know right now is that there's a possibility outside of what they're being dished out. They have no access to understanding that. They have no access to understanding that the way that they've been, brought up and limited as far as information goes, the bigger world that's available to them. And so when information is truly available to, all the billions of people on this planet from that standpoint, that's going to, one, break apart the ways that they have, systematically preyed off of, caste and class systems, throughout the uneducated through the poor. And it will break away all of that stuff where everybody can self-educate, everybody can communicate, everybody can learn new languages. That's that transition that I just kind of see.
Now, you've shot documentaries in Nepal. You've shot documentaries in Bali of very harsh but yet positive documentaries. Okay, that's your thing. But how is it that you're exposed to that, but you still have to get on a plane and fly back to the country where the streets are paved with gold? Now you've got an emotional thing that you have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's part of what breathes into me who I am, those experiences. I've always enjoyed travel. I've always enjoyed being with the poorest of the poor. I've been homeless in my life. I've been, an extreme heroin addict when I was, younger. I know what it's like to live in, Skid Row in Los Angeles. I know what it's like to be in impoverished countries. I know what it's like to see people victimized by, different aspects of culture and state that, create a horrible experience. And for me, it's always about refining humility. Humility is the gateway to unconditional love. You're never going to really truly experience unconditional love without, just really understanding humility. And to me, it's like, this is when you asked me before, do I have any regrets? It's like, I can't ever look down on anybody because I've been at the lowest of the low through those experiences, and when you do that, and when you put yourself through those experiences and you open up to the world and, you talk with people and you're a mirror for them to be, an ear to hear their story and understand the plights of, different cultures and different communities, it only gives you a better perspective on how you can be of service to the collective in a whole. So, that's kind of the philosophy that I've existed by and gone through and experienced is, no regrets and really just trying to never look down on anybody. And that all comes from just, knowing what it's like to be in the lowest of the low.
That's the only way. And before we've got a few minutes before we head to the break, but there is something that I want to spend some time on, and which is 2021. We just came off of 2020. No need to discuss it. It was a parallel world, man. It was we went to the edge of the cliff, man, and took a peek in the dark, right? That was. But here we are, 2021. I feel we have taken the turn, right? That's it. We've taken it down as far as we can go. That's my view. How do you see 2021 right here in the middle of January? What's going to happen? What's in our future?
2021 kind of has this vibe to me, like, I used to party a lot when I was younger, like big time. And, that Sunday that comes after a weekend of partying and you wake up and you're like, oh God, back to the routine. 2021, I think, is about that. We all got to really look the darkness in the face of each other this year and really kind of see how far we'll let it go, collectively. How far are we willing to let it go with each other? And I think that 2021 offers the opportunity to kind of march forward with what was uncovered through this dark night of the soul. They always say it's darkest just before the dawn.
Right.
This is the dawn here, from that standpoint of what we build after this point, and especially over the next decade, will echo into the thousands of years to come. The fork in the road, the crossroads that is being presented now is very, very real. And do we choose collectively to move into a place of sovereignty and love and communal support of the collective, or do we choose to move into a place of fear and separation and protection and all of the things that kind of come up through that myriad of experiences? And it's really up to everybody, what they choose. I'm choosing love. I'm choosing the concept of this is exactly the spank that we needed. Nobody knows the danger of the fire until they stuck their hand in it.
Well, were you surprised? I'm using 9 Inch Nails here. The downward spiral, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Were you surprised at how quick that was, the downward spiral, and hating your neighbor, how easy it was to get there?
Unfortunately, no, I wasn't surprised by it. I was heartbroken in seeing the mass of that being brought out. But in the same way, it's like those things need to happen so we can witness them and understand it's what we're all capable of, like all of us are capable of those things. Like, we can judge murderers and, people that have done horrible things, but, when it really comes down to it, we're all capable of that. And we're all one, from that standpoint. At least that's how I choose to perceive it. Because if I perceive from a place of separation, I'm consumed by fear, and it's like I've got kids, I've got that place to kind of hold that line in my own stewardship of my own line of my bloodline and my responsibilities. But the idea of succumbing to that, there's no end to it. There's no end to that darkness, and so I continually have to hold that space. Not surprised by where it went, but definitely trying to use it as an opportunity to look at where we don't want to go. I think is where it's best said.
Yeah, we were right there, man. We were on that boat pulling up in Apocalypse Now to Colonel Kurtz.
Totally. That's a great metaphor.
Man, we were right there, man, like the Donner Party,
Heart of darkness.
It's exactly.
Yeah,
man, totally. I mean, whew, I don't know how much closer we can get into staring ourselves in the face, and I've seen The Enemy, and he is us, right?
Yes,
it's like we were right there. All right, Richard, stay right there. Let's take our break right now. We'll come straight back into some overtime, and this is the point of the show when we go into overtime with the guests, where we can, well, we've had fun so far, but where we can let loose a little bit and open up. We'll do all of that after this short break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Roger R. Richards. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
And you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Overtime with Roger Richards. Roger R. Richards, the Triple R. You know, it's funny. Before the break, I caught myself. I called you Richard twice. I've never called you Richard. Where did that come from?
Just the plight of having the first name, last name going.
Man, the Triple R. I apologize for that. It's funny because if I had called you Richards over the years, that's different.
Totally, yeah.
No, it's always been Roger. So anyway, okay. I want to start here and kind of open things up. We haven't discussed this tonight, but part of what has been going on over the last 3 or 4 years with the disclosure community is TTSA. Whether you're on one side of the fence or the other with TTSA doesn't matter, but over the last couple of weeks, the rumors and announcements about, the departure of Luis Elizondo and Steve Justice and Christopher Mellon, the foundation of TTSA, of course, aside from Tom DeLonge, took us by surprise. What did you think when you started to hear that? Is it the downfall of TTSA? What do you think?
It sure seems like that, looking at, and coming from a place of knowing it's like, building a project and watching it fall apart. It sure looks like it's in the death rattles of of that experience. And so, yeah, I definitely think that it's on its way out. I think that the more interesting conversation from there is, where does it go? Where does Luis and the rest of them go? Where does DeLonge go, with this experience? And it will reveal a lot of what the intentions were, from the beginning, potentially for them. Were they self-serving for fame, or, they doing other things, from that standpoint to, the disinformation, whatever your opinions are about the, the whole thing. It's like, it's definitely on its way. It's in its death rattle here. And I think that what we're going to see, moving forward is going to be incredibly telling of the intentions of that project.
Were you surprised, again, because of what you have been doing in this community over the years, that TTSA in the beginning, in December of 2017, let everything go, right? It all came out, and it was a bit, but then that was their first and last hurrah, right? Nothing followed from that over 3 years.
I think that, the disclosure community, what I've come to know is like, it's a pretty tight family. Like, really, like, people, take this stuff seriously. And the majority of people that are in this community that participate are people that have had experiences they can't explain. And so it's hyper personal. And when somebody like Tom DeLonge, as an outsider to the community, kind of comes in and doesn't really interact with that community and then keeps it compartmentalized, it's like coming into a revolutionary movement and not interacting with the revolutionaries from that standpoint. So I think that innately out the door probably gave them problems. It also perpetuated lots of conspiracy theories about their intentions and all of that type of stuff. And so, I think that from maybe Tom DeLonge's standpoint, if he was to go back and look at kind of what went wrong, and I had the opportunity to kind of point out a few things, that would be one of them. Anybody that's kind of wanting to get involved in this community, you got to understand it's a community. This is where people network. It's that subculture. It is that place, that small, dirty little venue that everybody gets together and puts together their crafts and their DIY stuff and like bring it to the table. But if you become the elitist clique that's too cool for school, you're actually the antithesis of what subculture communities are about, and you're naturally going to alienate yourself from those communities.
Now, what do you make of the UAP task force?
give me some more information.
It's the new version of ATIP inside of the Pentagon.
Oh, got you there. I think that, the disclosures, the official disclosures that are kind of dripping out here from the Navy and military intelligence show a broader kind of agenda to kind of acclimate people so they don't get the bends. At least that's from my perspective.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
And so that's when I see those avenues there, it's like those are the active avenues of really kind of bringing information out there, but also understanding the responsibility of what that can do psychologically to the populace, on that level. And so like us at the disclosure community, we're like the canaries in the coal mine, the one that went in there first, and there's a lot of nuts, because of this and that experience. So we can look at what we've done collectively as a test group for the broader population, and it's been an intense road for everybody in this community in general. And so I think that moving forward, people should definitely not expect to get the whole truth from any type of government agency or official, any whistleblower that's coming forward. The nature of compartmentalization is exactly that. It's compartmentalized for a reason. But I do think that it all has value, even if it's disinformation. It has value researching and understanding these things. Everything has value as information. But I think the majority of what will come from disclosure will ultimately come from the people. That's the way it has to be, because if we're not ready for the truth, that's going to have a cascading psychological effect on our grandmothers, our aunts, our uncles, our children, our societies, our towns, our businesses, and all of those things. And so it's a fine line that has to be walked from, what gets revealed to the public and what doesn't, just put them onto a complete, timeline for self-destruction.
Well, what's the difference between counterintelligence and disinformation?
Is there a difference?
That's
that paradox of, disinformation may be necessary, in nature even, from the standpoint of, if you're teaching a child, to stay away from something, you kind of want to say, hey, don't go into that closet. There's a big bad boogeyman there, knowing that your rifles are locked up in there, and just, that type of thing. The idea of disinformation, and this is where I think, a lot of people will come at heads with me, is like there's value in that, because the disinformation in itself has information. It reveals the intention around what's being presented. When a magician offers up a sleight of hand there, what's not only interpreted as a great trick, but also to understand how they did that, and the skill set that how they did that is also the gift in knowing those things. And so that's kind of how I look at that stuff, is disinformation becomes necessary from that standpoint, and people have to look at that and really discern from themselves and look at the tangible information versus, what's just being put out there. And again, it's around, you can ponder this stuff, you can, daydream, think about this stuff. This is why I make films about this stuff, is to bring this stuff out there for people to think about. But when it comes down to, taking strong, bold opinions and lines that craft our, reality, our institutions, or our friendships, and all of that type of stuff, tangible information is the most accessible for people to come together in a place of understanding, as opposed to just, take a trip down the rabbit hole with them.
Is it as simple as you take the disinformation and immediately go 180 degrees in the opposite direction?
For me, I look at disinformation from, okay, what's the agenda here? What are they trying to play? Because the best disinformation is 97% true and 3% disinformation. That's how the best of them work in the intelligence agencies. And so the idea of trying to discern what was the 3% that they put in there and why would they put that in there? Because that tells everything to you about, further agendas that are to come. It tells information about what they're trying to cultivate right now within our dialogue. That's why it has value, from my perspective, and why I say disinformation, is useful in that way.
Now, the Senate Intelligence Committee, headed by Marco Rubio, hidden in the COVID finance package is the UAP task force funding for this group. And in that, 180 days from the funding date, which was a couple of weeks ago, the UAP task force is to present a report back to the Senate Intelligence Committee for the public. Inside of that is another section of that report that is allowed to be classified. Okay, that's the out, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is the out. That's the whoa, that's too crazy. That needs to be compartmentalized. What it is, though, again, is that drip place of a drip nurture campaign of putting it out there and slowly acclimating the public to the bends. Because what do you do by also classifying something? You tell people there's some crazy thing that can't be out there, and that perpetuates the continual motion to then declassify that. If you look at, for example, what just came out on the Black Vault site, the CIA documents that were just dumped here recently, that's a big part of, I think, the acclimation that's kind of going on to this idea that not only are these intelligence agencies collapsing and dissolving, and I believe there will be a merger of, military intelligence agencies in the future and reform of those, and potentially that's what folds all into Space Force. But until then, you've got these agencies that have been, one, compartmentalized from each other, that have independently explored these, different things. And now they're coming forward to have transparency with themselves, too, as the agencies by bringing this stuff public. And so from my perspective, it really shows the sea change that's happening for real, real response to our push for that information. But people need to watch it and look for the disinformation and look for what's being said by what's not being said. And that's the best I can kind of put
What
it.
do you expect to be in this report in 180 days, 160 days?
I think the idea of time travel is injected into the public's consciousness, because anybody that seriously researches the UFO topic understands that the laws of momentum and dynamics would destroy any physical living being that is being clocked at these speeds.
Right.
The only way for these to happen is literally for it to be a time machine, to jump from one point to another somehow, because without that experience, you would be crushed instantly, by the G-forces that are created. And when you can jump in time, you can jump in time. And what does that really mean? And what does it mean to pull ourselves out of the collective understanding of linear time and a time that's a closed loop? This is the advancements in quantum science. This is where the rubber meets the road as far as spirituality and religion merging at those places. The idea of quantum technology, especially within quantum computing, when these become household understandings, it will change our consciousness. When we understand scientific theory from the standpoint we're all entangled, that's a mirror to we are all one. Those concepts that have been the tenets of, our base religions and, all of these higher spiritual, and philosophical ideas of being a one unity consciousness is now represented in scientific theory. And when that happens, the breakthrough of quantum consciousness, Christ consciousness, whatever people, want to interpret it, the final, kind of union between that science and spirituality, all that stuff is what's nestled in these documents. Though the drip nurture campaign that could be playing out through the release of these documents, I believe, is leading to that understanding of really a quantum reality, how we interact and how it interacts with us. And the technologies are going to be the wayfarer for, revealing those things and helping us understand how those things actually work.
Is time travel something that is easier to, if you're going to have a drop, is that easier for everybody to understand and digest than ET, right?
Well, I think it's the whole conversation about the chicken and the egg. There has to be an origin seed for all life.
Right.
And so when you bring in the idea of time travel, who's to say that these extraterrestrials that people are experiencing, all throughout, history are not, future versions of ourselves, coming back and utilizing that time? Are we getting to a place where we inhabit other planets in the future and it changes our physical bodies? Do we get to a place where we can edit with RNA to, change our physical bodies based off of where we travel in space? And if those things are our future, and where we're going and in evolution, and time travel is possible, are we, really looking at ourselves? Are these really aliens, or are these really just kind of experiences of ourselves here in different iterations in the future? Those are the things that I find fascinating to contemplate in relationship to, this time warping technology, quantum computing, and, extraterrestrials, the possibility of extraterrestrials.
Now, okay, so that maybe that's why we haven't had an alien invasion, right?
That's pretty good. That's, I mean, if
now, would that also remove the fear discussion, right?
I think it does, from the standpoint of, we are continuing to go down a road of evolution that's crafted by us in this moment. Have we lived parallel realities that have played this moment over and over? I definitely believe that's possible. Are we resolving anomalies and collapsing anomalies in those realities in this, place? I definitely believe that's possible too. But the idea of, what we're trying to kind of go to now collectively in the future with these advancements and these releases of technologies, we can play in the sandbox all we want and hypothesize about, what we could do with them. But to really hold these technologies in our hands, the maturity that it's going to take for us to not let these technologies destroy us and turn on us, and, is going to take all of us collectively coming together and creating regulation and really understanding the power that these technologies have, but also the responsibility that we have to steward in what's natural. When you look at the idea of transhumanism and losing, what is natural against what is created, artificially, the idea of, creating regulations for non-sentient AI. AI can be available, but trying to become gods and create sentience in machines, these are the places, these are the transgressions, I believe, that are forks in the road that we choose different outcomes. And I think that, a lot of people are scared of artificial intelligence. They're scared of these things, because it's been in our folklore, T2, the Skynet and all of this stuff. But really, when it comes down to it, it's a tool. It can just be like a hammer. And if you set it on a shelf, it's not going to pick up and hammer a nail until you interact with it. And these are the regulations and the conversations, I think, that need to be had in relationship to these coming technologies in both, quantum computing, travel, DNA editing, all of that type of stuff. Those are the conversations that need to be had now to protect against, losing what makes us human and what makes us natural in those places. That's where I see things.
Now, talking about the possibility of some type of open source security agency, that kind of scares the crap out of me. That some things do need to be kept secret. Okay, I mean, there's no question about that. The flip side is, we just went through 2020. We know how upset we can get, how quickly we can go down the downward spiral. But if it is revealed that the government knows about time travel and the government knows about free energy and anti-gravity and technology and has been holding that back from us, that's revolution. That's anarchy in the streets.
And it can be anarchy in the streets, or it could be that there are people that have been cultivated to take that archetype on and responsibility for doing that, and they will be a part of justice for the people in a way that we bring justice to compensating for that. But in the same way, that's also what we're facing collectively. It doesn't have to be anarchy in the streets. It doesn't have to be, because we are complicit in our we have given consent to a lot of this. This is out there. This has been known for a while. It's almost like cliche at this point. And what's happened is apathy has taken over, where people just accept this experience, and that's on us. That is absolutely on us, to take on. And I think that's what this experience is about right now too. Is the death of that apathy and the reinvigorating and awakening of the true responsibility and accountability for the individual on the whole. And these technologies and disclosures like that, they could be a total nightmare for us to turn it into destruction and all of that, or it could be a real marker and where we let things go that we shouldn't have, and a commitment to making sure that we don't do that ever again collectively.
Have we been desensitized? Maybe too much? If real disclosure actually happens, is the reaction going to be right?
Well, I think if real disclosure is, hey, there's extraterrestrials out there, there's other life beyond this planet, it's like, okay, that's one thing that I think. But if the real disclosure is, hey, by the way, these elites have been using this technology to cull timelines against us, that might be another conversation. You know what I mean?
Why don't we have a million disclosure march? I would think that is in the realm of possibilities.
I think that's where this is going, and that's one of those things that can divide the right or left, because the division that we see, and at the core of every social justice movement, when you really trace it back, it goes back to the people that are feeding off of us, whether it's Dakota Access Pipeline, whether it's women's rights, whether it's civil rights, whether it's the sovereignty movement. All of these things can be traced back to one core problem that we have together. We've all been frickin' lied to, and that is the truth. And if we can come together on that platform and realize that we just need to pull this stuff out into the public collectively for the purposes of building a new, experience, the disclosure community doing a million disclosure march could absolutely do that. Or better yet, a million people meditating and in prayer in a space like that could even go, beyond that for that intention. That's the whole idea of, kind of what I was doing with Full Disclosure Now, is like getting people at 11:11 every day to just set their, watches and their cell phones for a gentle ping, to think that term, to just embody that term, full disclosure now, and synchronize people's thoughts to that. That's where I see this movement going. I've seen that from the beginning. I've tried to pour life and my care into this movement as an activist, from contributing to those conversations in that way. I've organized mass meditations in DC. I've been actively a part in organizing events over the last years that bring people together for mass meditations. This is our power from a direct action collective standpoint, in my opinion, from the disclosure side of things. So yeah, Jimmy, you light the fire, I'll be right next to you.
I'm right there, man. I'm right there. Well, this is, if Edward Snowden were to do what he did today, there would be a different reaction. There would be much more anger, and changes would be different today. We didn't have the reaction. The Patriot Act is still in play, right? We, as outraged as we were, it didn't gain traction. But today, it's a different world, isn't it?
It is a different world, and that world reflects where we're at collectively. And there's nothing better than the right time and the right place. And when those things kind of come together, they produce miracles and breakthroughs in ways that couldn't be done before or won't come after that. And those are the real magical moments. And I think that regardless of the stress that we're all in right now, I would encourage everybody, if you're hearing my voice right now and listening to this, understand that this is a freaking miracle where we're at right now. The ability to go through this dark night of the soul that we've gone through and see the darkest in each other, and still be fighting forward to love each other and to bring this experience to a place of unity. It says a lot about where we're at and the possibilities of what we can create together here in this future. Don't lose sight of hope. don't lose sight of the amazing things that are available if we all can kind of put our heads together and find life and inspiration and love and passion into being of service to that experience. And this experience will feed back to you life, love, and passion.
Roger Richards. Now, let's not wait 2 years for the next conversation. The website and the film is 1000pieces.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. I want to thank Roger for coming on tonight. Amazing conversation, and we just went poll to poll, and I've got to get to credits. Roger, you stay right there. I'm going to speak with Roger for a while after the show tonight, and I know everybody out there is jealous. So let's get out of here tomorrow night. Right here, we're doing ghost hunting tomorrow night with Tony and Cherie Rathman. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What a great week we've got coming up. And, of course, Wednesday night, special announcement about the Conscious Life Expo. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarian. Show is produced by, I lost my notes. Show is produced by L.J. Palm, Renee Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night, ghost hunting. I want everybody to be safe. Fade to Black.